guys and gals, welcome back to my show, Coffee with Lisa. So excited to have you here. Today I'm joined by two very special people. I'd like to introduce you to Tom. Tom has always wanted to be a pitcher for the Dodgers. He dreamed about it as a little boy, and today he's successfully pitched to well over 3 million people to help them close more deals and strike up business. He's a faculty member here at Extra Credits. Hi, Tom.
Hey, Lisa. Hi. Good.
How are you today?
Unbelievable, which covers it either way.
Fantastic. And I'd also like to introduce Samir. Now, Samir as a little boy always dreamed of being a doctor. And although he's not a doctor now, he confidently and very craftsmanly helps people with their heart and their relationships and builds networks all over the world. He's helped more people drive more business and build more genuine relationships than anybody I've ever met. Considered to be many by the financial professional marketplace as the go-to person for education and how to build a referral network. Good morning, Samir.
Hi, good morning, Lisa. Hello, Tom.
Hello.
It's fantastic to both have you here. I'm going to get started right away because I know that the two of you gentlemen both know how to leave a memorable impression. So Samir, I'm going to start it off with you first. How do you leave a memorable impression?
Well, I think giving your best introduction, Lisa, one that will make you stand out forever, it will not happen automatically. And I think building relationships starts with thoughtful communication. And people judge you and draw initial conclusions within seconds of meeting you. And so that one first impression better be a good one. Otherwise, you're going to spend a lot of time putting toothpaste back in the tube with that relationship. And I think a simple way to have a memorable first impression is to have an elevator speech. Not, hey, I'm Samir Somal and I'm the Chief Financial Officer of Blue Ocean Global Technology and Blue Ocean Global Wealth. But hello, my name is Samir Somal. I'm an educator first and foremost. And I'm passionate about sharing information that can help others make the most informed decisions. And you can see the slight difference. And as I know Tom knows very well, using your ears and mouth proportionately when meeting someone also helps.
Absolutely. And Tom, what would you add to that?
Well, I think you hit it right on the head. There's 7 fundamentals to sell any product or service. And the second one is original contact, which means people judge you visually and verbally just in seconds. And so the way you look when you go and meet a person, dressed, groomed based on your product or service, and of course, asking them the right questions and being a better listener than you want to be a talker. So those are a couple of things that I feel are important. And coming across with a service attitude rather than a selling attitude, I think will increase the relationship more rapidly, and they'll want to have a longer relationship with you.
Absolutely. And so for our viewers, Tom, you've been in the professional selling field for well over 30 years. What is probably, and spoke with more financial professionals like Samir. So what would you say is their number one hurdle when they're starting to build a referral network?
Well, the first key is when you start off brand new, you've got to subject yourself to the possibility of rejection. You're going to get more no's than yeses, but you have to build momentum. Many financial services people have a tendency to wait for someone to call them instead of either picking up the phone and delivering a great dialogue to create curiosity in the mind of the person on the other end so that they want to meet with you. And then, of course, it's the same in the in-person meeting where you have an ability to say the words properly. It's kind of like what Samir alluded to and said. If I met you at a party and we were talking and you're in business in the community, so am I, and you said to me, you know, Tom, what do you do? And I said, well, I sell insurance and financial services. Well, that's the end of the discussion. Because right away, you don't want either of those things in the first 10 seconds I've met you. But if you said, Tom, what do you do? And I said, you know, we help people get out of debt more rapidly and build financial independence to enjoy their golden years. That's kind of what we're up to. Now, if you do it right, they'll say, well, can you tell me more? Then you take it away. You know, we're here at a party, and gosh, I'm glad you're excited to know more. I'm going to get in touch with you, and we'll maybe meet this next week, have a cup of coffee, and I'd love to share it with you. How's that sound? Now I've moved from a quick meeting to have him curious, to have him then want to know more, and bingo, I have an appointment. Now, when I was in full-time selling real estate, if I went to a wedding, a reception, I went to a party, I set a goal that my goal is to meet every human being in that room. Now, what's nice about that is when you're within four walls of another person, you have commonality. You're there for the same reason. So to go up to a person that you've just never met before and say, hi, how are you? I'm curious. What a great wedding it was. I'm curious, how do you know the hosts or the bride and groom? Well, we blah, 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 blah. Really? Well, you must be in business then. What do you do? Well, I'm in the telecommunication field. No kidding. Boy, it's exploded. Gosh, listen, you know, I'm in business. And I always say it this way, Lisa, I'm in business in the community as well. And we love networking and sharing leads with other companies. Hey, before we leave tonight, let me just have a place where I can reach you. I can email you. Hey, we might be able to send some business. You wouldn't mind if I refer business to you, would you? Very few people will say, oh, no, don't send me any business. If they say that, you may not want to do business with them. All right.
Exactly. I'm just going to play a little clip here right now. Thank you, Tom, from Samir. And it's going to play. I'm just going to do a little clip.
One first impression. As I mentioned, you get one first impression. So everyone's got to play to their strengths. You're like, all right, Samir, I heard you say that. So my favorite subject happens to be history. Okay? My favorite subject. I love history. Love reading history, a pastime of mine. So I built a little bit of a profile speaking to financial advisory, financial services audiences in the United States. So I always joke, if you're young and brown like me and you're speaking to an older homogeneous audience, you better be funny, you better know.
Samir, I'm sure you recognize that video. So tell us a little bit about what was happening in the room that day and what you were talking about and who the professionals were in that room.
Sure. I think generally that was at the CFA Institute Society Leaders Conference in San Jose. And I think you can always better your best. You can always go further than anything you've ever done. And what I love about what Tom just said is that really networking and building relationships is about giving. It's not about getting. And when you can find ways to give to someone, similarly to Tom's philosophy, when I meet someone, I want to listen and understand who they are and what are the type of people that can really be beneficial for them. And that allows you also to take in a lot of data points on someone. When I was just speaking in Dallas last week, I asked the audience, I said, how many people in this audience, and I'm sure many of you can relate, think of all the people you know, and I'm sure our audience here today can relate, how many people know of a taker, right? Somebody you meet who you're going to help, and they're going to take more, and then they're not going to think anything about how they can help you or what's good for you. They're going to keep taking. Mm-hmm. And I think that you have to look out and you have to assess people and you have to connect with those, and you're not going to know who the takers are until later. But if you're authentic about it and you give, you're going to figure it out quickly. And then when you help someone, like Tom just gave an example of, would you like a referral? And Tom may give that referral and that person may say, wow, Tom, I've never met anyone that gave me a referral when I just met them. And that's going to immediately build trust. And people do business with those that they like and trust. And so that's a great first step.
Yeah, I agree. And Tom, you would, I think, agree with me on this, is people don't often object to the price. They object because they don't trust doing business with you.
Well, Lisa, I've said this over the years. If people ever stopped me in an elevator and said, Tom, I recognize you from your books, and I'm going up 10 floors. In 10 floors, what's the best advice you can give me? I would simply say this: work harder on yourself than you do on your job to become a person that other people like and trust and want to listen to. You make that happen, and I don't care what your business, you'll be highly successful.
Yeah. And learning, I mean, all three of us, we are our avid readers. We're avid learners. It's part of our daily routine, most definitely. I mean, Tom, you have a number of books. Samir, your whole business is based on education, and so is Extra Credits. So I'm going to have another little video here that I'd like to share with us from Tom. So I'm just a minute here. All right.
There are many traits common to those who can be called professionals in the field of real estate. One particular quality that separates the average from the great can be expressed by one word. In fact, before I give it to you, let me say something. It's going to start with D. And when I first started training many, many years ago, over 3 million salespeople ago, I used to say this when I was kind of a new trainer. The most important thing you have to be successful is a burning desire. And I thought it was desire. It's not. There's a D word more important than desire, and that word is the word discipline. You see, I meet young folks primarily, 25 or 30, that want the new BMW. They want the home of their dreams. They have the desire to have wealth, but don't have the discipline to do what's necessary to make the wealth. So I'm going to start off by saying you've got to bring your will under control to have discipline. See, the average American seeks the pleasures of the day. You must seek the things you must do to get the goals and dreams you desire. This is called punctuality, being on time. It's called keeping commitments, following up and doing what you say you're going to do. It's called keeping in touch so they don't forget you. It's all the little things I've.
So for those of you enjoying that particular video clip, you're welcome to go to Tom's YouTube channel to get the entire clip. Now, Tom, you're best known for teaching practical how-to selling skills. What do you say, what to do and say with buyers and clients? Give us an example of a strategy you and your students have the most success with.
Well, first of all, many people today feel that the art of selling has changed. And the truth of the matter is, selling, if I can use an analogy like the game of golf. The game of golf, back when Bobby Jones played it 50 years ago plus, the fundamentals of a good golf swing have not changed. The equipment is better. The strength of the golfer is better. And so, of course, the scores are also better. But the fundamentals, the 14 reflex movements of a good golf swing will never change. So it's just like in selling. The 7 fundamentals of selling any product or service basically will never change. And the art of closing the sale, the art of overcoming objections, the art of establishing rapport, those fundamentals will never change. The key, of course, is to find a mentor, someone who you like and trust, someone who you feel a relationship feeling with, and then just learn what they do. Because I believe that the greatest people I've ever met found a mentor, became a student of that mentor, and then eventually became as good as the mentor, hopefully.
Absolutely. It's interesting because some of the most successful people in the world, like yourself and Sir Richard Branson, for instance, has a number of mentors and a number of different coaches specific to very, very specific skills. Now, Samir, would you say and agree with what Tom says? And I'm sure you have a mentor and coach as well.
Many mentors, and life is too short to learn all of the lessons ourselves. I think to hit on an earlier point about lifelong learning, we oftentimes hear that it's about who you know, right? How many times do we hear that? I believe it's about using what you know to improve who you know and using who you know to improve what you know. And that cycle ultimately is what carries you forward. And I think so much of relationships in life, is about the intangibles. As aptly said by Albert Einstein, he said, not everything that counts can be counted, and not everything that can be counted counts. And the intangibles or soft skills oftentimes represent the tipping point between great success. Like, how do you measure the love you have for your children, your parents, those in your family? How do you measure your ability to communicate effectively? Those are all intangibles, but sometimes we focus on quantitative metrics when qualitatively there's so much that can make the difference between 211 and 212 degrees Fahrenheit when you need boiling, or 99 and 100 Celsius. And I think earning mentorships will help nurture your professional skill set. Mentors are critical because they offer perspective at key inflection points and help you make the most informed decisions. And I think another one myth I want to point out is that sometimes with mentors, we think, you know what, I have a mentor and I'm going to learn everything from that mentor. But I constantly hear from mentors, Samir, I've learned more from you than you'll ever learn from me. And I always say we can agree to disagree, but I think it has to be symbiotic. And if we're constantly sharing information and trying to be a person of value, right? Strive not for success, strive to be a person of value. Even in those mentor relationships, you're ultimately going to get the most out of them.
Yeah. And I think too, every relationship that you have, they may not be specifically a mentor, but they may have mentored you on a specific idea or a strategy, for instance, and they don't typically mentor with you every day or coach you every day, but they make a profound impact on you.
Absolutely. And I think that one point I would just mention here is that there's a lot of pressure associated, of course, Tom knows this, with selling and achieving results, but even just this notion of networking. And I always remind myself, relationships are built one sentence, one conversation, one day at a time, right? The beauty of the future, Mr. Lincoln said, is one day at a time. And so don't put so much pressure on yourself, and recognize that those small compounded activities and authentic and genuine care for others will ultimately compound into strong, lifelong friendships.
Absolutely. And so, Tom, would you say that, to talk a little bit more about your lifelong friendships, who was your mentor or mentors growing up? I mean, you're extremely successful, and I'm sure the viewers want to know who made profound impacts on your life.
Well, I have three that I really leaned on to learn my business, my selling skills, attitude skills, and so forth. The first was a man named J. Douglas Edwards, and he, back in the 50s, had the title of the guru of modern American selling, and he taught the art of closing the sale. And I spent the last $150 I had in the bank after going 1 year in construction, and after high school, I didn't go to college, and I spent that $150 and spent 3 days at his feet. And he changed my life as far as selling skills. Then, of course, Dr. Norman Vincent Peale. He, of course, Think and Grow Rich, one of the most fabulous books. You can pick it up every year, and you'll find tidbits you missed. And he and his wife, Ruth, wonderful folks. He was very important in my life. And, of course, a neighbor here in Scottsdale who's no longer with us, Earl Nightingale. He was one of my not only friends, but he, in his wonderful recordings, taught me more about leadership, more about relationships. So those are the three mentors that had the life-changing effect on me back when I was very, very young. And thank God they did, because today I teach most of what they taught me, giving them, of course, credit that this is where I learned it. But those would be the men that would be my mentors.
Samir, I have a question for you. When you're building capital and earning friendship, can you comment on the importance of an authentic friendship?
Yeah, I think people, to talk about one of my mentors when I was with Scotiabank, a gentleman named Wayne Lesage, people are very smart, and they know when you've done more for them than they've done for you. And they realize that, and that has a way of earning trust and building the relationship, because generally we're a little bit reserved, and sometimes we've been wounded in situations by those takers. when discussing networking, I talk about the importance of first you connect with someone. Like Tom talked about, he was at that wedding and he wanted to meet every single person and he connected with many of those people. The second step is building the relationship, and that's everything. And if you build a relationship with authenticity over the course of several months, that person can become part of your lifelong network, and you don't necessarily have to stay in touch with them kind of every month. And I think one of the most underrated areas where we can all improve is following up and making sure that, you know, you say what you mean what you say. If you say you're going to email someone, if you say you're going to send them an article, do it. And I think, what's the point? As I made when I was speaking at an event a few years ago, I said, what's the point of going to an event and networking if you're not going to follow up with the people that you met? And so you have to find ways in the era of smartphones where, isn't it ironic that technology brings us close to people far away, but takes us away from people close to us? So you've got to be innovative about how you engage. And one of the things I would say that is becoming almost innovative is using the telephone. When I'm working and I get an email from someone and I'm like, wow, this would be much faster in a telephone conversation, or, hey, I haven't spoken with this person in a little while. I actually pick up the phone and people are so happy about it. They say, Samir, that's awesome. People don't call me anymore. It just happened yesterday with my friend, Rob Gowan at CFA Institute. We were joking about that. And so I think that, of course, following up via email, following up on social media, and being someone like Tom that's sharing content that's memorable and relevant. So you want to keep following and watching his videos. And of course, as you mentioned, Lisa, and you're acutely aware of, the art of the handwritten note has certainly come into vogue. And I'm told over and over again, Samir, you follow up with more purpose than anyone I've ever met. And I think that's something that I'm constantly studying and trying to learn from others like you, Lisa, and of course, the venerable Tom.
Absolutely. And a good friend and faculty member here at Extra Credits, David Lee Jensen, says, Lisa, you are the queen of persistence. He says, I've never met anybody who's more persistent and follows up than you. So, and I take that dearly into my heart. And Tom, you talk lots about the power of a thank you note. Explain what you mean by that.
Well, first of all, overall, Samir has hit points. I sit here and I just laugh to myself because the things that we're saying obviously are fundamentally sound because all of us believe in it. I had a little saying, if I met someone that was qualified and we had a relationship, I'd follow up till they buy or die. And that was the way I
like that.
I love that. Follow up to I'm going to use that. That's awesome.
Good. And then also I like this as well, that the keep in touch is so important. And as I got busier and busier, here's something I did, an idea, if you will, is people like to know you're thinking of them and keeping in touch. The challenge is if we're as busy as we all are during the day, a lot of times it's not possible. So, of course, I had all my people in the computer and so forth, and I would decide, hey, I'm going to wait and call the business that they work for, and I'm going to call when I'm sure they're closed. Meaning, in other words, I'd get up in front of the fireplace at 9 o'clock at night, knowing all these people that work in this business, they're not there. And I'd call them and I might call and say, hi, Samir, this is Tom Hopkins. It's 10 o'clock at night. I know you're not there, but I wanted to know how much I appreciate you being a valued client and someone that we have served. And I want to wish you a beautiful day, week, month, and eternity. And I'd have fun with this. Now, here they come in the next morning. They're checking their messages. And here's this 8-10 second little message from Tom. Well, I didn't have to talk, didn't have to get into how's the family, the kids, the blah, blah, blah. And also, Lisa, one thing you said that's so true. I started when I was 19 years of age. I saw my mother sitting at the little table every night after she'd go out with her friends and my father to dinner. She'd be there and I'd say, Mom, what are you doing? And she'd say, we had dinner with wonderful folks and I'm just sending them a little thank you note. Well, I watched her do this. And when I got into real estate, no one was doing it. I started sending thank you notes. And I still believe today, because of email, all the social, that personal thank you note has more power today. And Lisa, the folks that are listening or watching now, if they're interested, I have a thing called the free resource page. And if they go to my website and punch in free resource, I have 10 thank you notes, professionally edited. They're beautiful. And you can just push a button and get them, all 10 of them, as a gift. So maybe someone that's not good at writing, because let's face it, writing's an art form. And after 18 books that I've written, I think that I know the art form, but I've written these thank you notes so that almost anybody can take them, use them. You have our permission. You can reproduce them. So you may want to let me be one of your writers as to what you say in the 10 thank you notes.
Awesome. That's fantastic. And what we'll do is we will make sure that if our viewers are there right now, and I know that there's a few in the back that are probably madly typing away right now on the Facebook and letting them know where that URL link is. So thank you for that. Now, I have another question for you two gentlemen. So you both live fairly heavily in the financial market sector. And so I'm going to ask you both, what is the first thing you do when you speak to somebody that you know extremely well and you've got a new product or you've got a new service and you'd like to pitch to them, but you're not sure exactly how to position it? Tom?
Well, my personal belief is I always went to my upper management and I would say to them, would you please give me an instruction? And they say, what? You tell me that I have to call all of my existing clients and inform them about this new thing that we're doing. Now you've been given an order, in essence. I'm telling the truth. Now I call these folks up and say, yes, upper management's asked me to do something, and I hope you won't mind. They would like me to run some ideas by people like you that have relied on us. And so would that be okay with you? Well, now in a way, it's not me just calling. It's I have a job I have to do. And so that's another approach on making the call to existing clients. I also feel, though, that if you are talking to a client, and my largest account was Sandy Weil for many years. He of course, owned Primerica. They have 110,000 financial services representatives. And I would teach them that the whole key is to not come across like a stereotypical salesperson, but come across like a very nice person. And again, it is strategy, it is technique, and it's the words, the phraseology that you say that not only opens doors, but allows you to move people to the decision of exchanging their money for your benefits that you offer them. And it's a wonderful experience.
Well, and it may lead to other things as well. You never know what opportunities lie in that conversation. It might not be a direct business right at that moment. And yes. Would you agree, Samir?
I would, and I think that Tom hit the nail on the head in terms of being thoughtful. You know, he went to his senior management and now he's calling with a purpose, and that client may think, wow, I'm really important to that company because senior management wanted me to reach out. I think there's 2 points I'd add. One is people want to know why. So if you're able to be a little bit of a raconteur and storyteller and tell them why this information is important, how it's helped others, they definitely will relate to that. And I also think that, it's funny because I always say, I might call someone, and I love calling people I don't know. I love the challenge of it. And people say, well, what are you selling? And I always say, I'm not selling anything. But in parentheses, I'm thinking you're always selling yourself. And so if you can sell yourself, people are going to be more interested in speaking with you. And I think why Tom has been successful as a speaker, and I always remind myself, is you have to educate. You have to share information so that others feel really good about the time well spent. Oftentimes I get the question, well, Samir, you just spoke on reputation management, and you didn't even talk about the fact that your company delivers CLE programs to attorneys, and you solve cases for attorneys and corporate clients on reputation repair, and you're a subject matter expert witness. And I remind them that if I would have talked about and sold them on why we need to potentially partner from a reputation management standpoint, they would have been the first people to say, well, that guy Samir, he just tried to sell me on something. So I think you have to get people to the point where they're interested, and that takes a lot of work behind closed doors, investing in yourself. And as we hit on earlier, you get one first impression. So I'm a big believer in, those Friday and Saturday nights. If you want to be great, you want to achieve success, you're going to have to change the way you spend your time. And that ultimately is going to be how you can expand your opportunity set non-linearly.
Yeah. Less time on Facebook exploring and more time educating yourself and investing in yourself, because nobody else is going to invest in you. Nobody is going to invest in you. Only yourself. You're the only one. So those conversations, though, and that leads me to my next question, which would be, how do you take those conversations from my manager suggested that I reach out and give you a call, you're our VIP client, to asking for a referral?
Well, I think that you build getting referrals almost in the very beginning with a person. Kind of like this. Lisa, our company, has been built on getting referrals if we do the job. And the company's asked me to just let you know that if we do the job and you're thrilled with the service, will it be okay if I ask you for a few other people that I might contact? Well, see, if you let them almost know that in the beginning, they want the service, they want to have a good bargain-wise financially. And it's amazing how, if they feel that they'll say yes to that, and then many of them will say, well, let's see how well you do. That's fine. You then must earn that right by the quality service, the follow-up, the keep in touch, the thank you notes. And all of a sudden, you'll be amazed how they'll say, sure. I had a goal that every person that I found a product for, which was my home, found a real estate property for, that I would get 3 qualified names of friends, relatives, or business associates. And by setting them up for the referral in the beginning nicely, and then never mentioning it till the closing of the transaction, John and Mary, I'm so happy you've been moved into your new property, and I see you're going to enjoy many years. And hey, do you remember 2 months ago when we met, I kind of told you how our company is built, and that's on referrals to other people. And I'm going to now, John and Mary, just ask for 3 folks that you might know, friends, relatives, business associates, that I can at least call and let them know I made you happy. And maybe they'll know someone who will also be interested in a home. So can we do that right now? Go, if you want to get your address book, Mary, great. Or get that computer out, John, and let's get those 3 names. I'm thrilled.
And Samir, what would you say would happen? Would there be an opportunity to come out of that afterwards? And what I mean by opportunity is follow-up. How much does the follow-up play into what Tom is saying? Because as far as I'm concerned, actions always speak louder than words. And so when you're engaging in that conversation, you have to follow up. Would you not agree?
Yes.
Absolutely. Follow-up is critical. I love the point from Tom that begin with the end in mind. Establish the expectations that you're going to want some referrals, then go out there and provide value. And then remind people that you've provided value of their positive experience. I think it was John D. Rockefeller that said, the next most important thing to doing the right thing is telling people that you're doing the right thing. So when they've had a positive experience, thank them in a note, send them something, follow up and ask them, hey, did you get the note that I sent you? I really value this relationship. Samir, that was awesome. I am so excited to be working with you. Great. One of the ways that I grow my business is my favorite clients and people that I work with, they introduce me to others. And I always tell people up front, an introduction is not a prospective client. I'm not going to speak with someone and say, hey, here's how we can work together with an agenda. I'm going to make sure, Mr. and Mrs. Client, that anyone you put me in touch with, they're going to come back to you regardless of whether we ever do business. And they're going to say, wow, that guy Samir, he may be a little bit quirky or eccentric, but man, he is someone that I'm really glad you introduced me to. He's someone of value. He's a resource. And I really liked his approach. And when you let people know and you mitigate the risk associated with, hey, their reputation introducing, they're going to say, oh, you know what? That's great. And then when somebody makes the introduction, they go back and they say, wow, that guy Samir was awesome. They're going to feel really good about making referral number 2, 3, 4, or 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll tell you one other idea, Lisa, if I might. Don't use the word referral use the word quality introductions. And I share that with you because there are words that you say that are too selling jargon, and that's referral. Now, I shouldn't have even said it when I was talking earlier, because I try to teach people that don't use referral, use quality introductions, and then they aren't feeling that pressure of having to refer someone. So I just wanted to jump in and share that with you.
Well, and I think I'll take responsibility for that, because I'm the one who started the conversation with the words. And Patricia Fripp is specificity builds credibility, and so I should have been more specific with what I was asking. The other question I have too is that if you were to give one main tip, the tool, the technique of how to grow your network, what would that be, gentlemen? And I'll start with Tom.
Go ahead, Samir. I want to hear what he has to say first. I get a lot of good information, so fire away, my friend.
That's where Tom has learned the art of being a lot smarter. So he's going to take what I say and he's going to say something even better. I would say that, building relationships, strive to be a person of value. I think giving without remembering and receiving without forgetting is critical. And don't go with an agenda. People know when you've really tried to help them, when you've listened, right? And when you talk to someone, it's the old line, talk to a man or woman about him or herself, and they'll listen to you for hours. And sometimes we feel this pressure. If we're in sales, we own a business, we meet someone, we have to let them know who we are and what we do. And sometimes you have to let that come to you, right? They call it small talk for a reason, and people feel that, well, hey, that's small talk, and I just have to say a few little things, and then I get serious. When reality is, the small talk is where you can connect with someone, because people are oftentimes going to forget what you did, forget what you say, but they're never going to forget how you made them feel.
Boy, that's right on. And we are all in the emotion business, and no one buys anything logically. They invest in something emotionally, then defend what they did logically. So I think the advice I would give people is learn to say everything the way they want to hear it, if at all possible. Don't use the word price, say total investment. Don't say down payment, initial investment. Don't call your form a contract. That scares people. Call it your agreement. People love agreements. I just don't want to get near a contract. And don't say the word buy. Don't ever say to someone, when you buy our product, say the word own. People love to own. They're just afraid to buy. And don't say the word sell, because they don't want you to sell them. Just get them involved. People love to get involved. I just don't want you to sell me. And I also feel, don't use the word objection. It'll trigger ones they haven't thought of. Just call them areas of concern. Now that 1.5 minutes of those words can be worth a fortune to you at the end of the year in the number of sales you close.
That's awesome. I'm just going to add one thing in here, Lisa, and say, first off, Tom confirmed the point that we thought, and that he had a better response to me, and I loved it. Those details, Tom, are everything. My business partner, Margarita Cheng, she is so thoughtful in the little minor points in the way that things are positioned, and that brings out empathy. And I'm just going to give one quick example. You meet someone at an event, and that question, what do you do, is so intrusive, because it's like whatever I'm going to say next is like defining who I am to this entire world. And a much easier way is, tell me about the role at your company. Tell me a little bit about your responsibilities and how you spend your time professionally versus what do you do? And just that little simple difference can have a huge impact on earning trust and making people feel open-minded about listening to what you have to say. And clearly Tom's been a master of that for quite some time.
Well, it's funny, just to add to that, Patricia Fripp told me once, never start with what you actually do, because nobody wants to know what you want to do. They want to know why you do what you do. And so often when I meet somebody at a networking event, that's what I start with. I don't start with what do I do, even though that's the question asked. I always tell them why I do what I do, because I love to help people. I love to educate professionals, and I love to help them advance in their careers. So, and I truly believe that a missed opportunity is no opportunity. And so the opportunity to have a conversation with somebody can lead to endless opportunities. And so when you're not having those conversations and you're not being genuine with them, then opportunity doesn't exist. All right, gentlemen, well, we're getting close to the 10:45 mark, 45 minutes. There's a couple things that I would like to ask. And first of all, if you were to give one last word of advice, Samir, what would that be for any professional? It doesn't matter what industry you're in. I know that you're in the financial industry and you're in the tech education industry with your businesses, but what would your advice be?
Well, am I allowed to kick it to Tom and play the smart play here?
I think actually that's what you did do. Actually, Tom, I'm going to ask you, Tom.
I would give the advice of this. If you're going to be successful at any endeavor, you must put forth fanatical effort and activity to build momentum. And the word educate has been said so many times, Lisa. I just hope the folks viewing us will realize that we do three things. We educate people, and then we motivate them to take action, and then we have fun with it. I mean, keep it light, keep it fun. By the end of my real estate, 8 years in real estate, most of the people I found homes for became friends. And we had a wonderful long-term relationship. Some of these folks bought 3 or 4 homes from me. So I think my main thing is realize that fanatical activity, don't take no's personally. Learn that the no is the stepping stone to the yes. Stay focused on your goals and keep listening and watching things like this, and let us mentor you to greatness.
Absolutely. Well, I always like to say a no is never a no. It's just not yet.
Good. Very good. I'll steal that from you.
Thank you. All right. And so, Tom, you have a sales academy coming up here shortly. Tell us
I do.
about that.
Well, I have a 2-day program. It's we kind of call it our 2-day sales academy, and I love teaching it. I'm 8 hours a day I teach, so 16 hours, and it's in Los Angeles, March 2nd and 3rd, and folks can contact us if they'd like to know more about it. But the 2 days, you'll work your tails off, but you'll walk out learning how to close more sales than you ever dreamed of. How's that?
Fantastic. All right. And so I've already put the link to the Sales Academy in the chat feed. And of course, you're welcome to reach out to Tom. You've gotten his information throughout the broadcast, as well as Samir. So I'd like to thank you, gentlemen, very much for joining me today and our audience. And happy trails and good luck in your endeavors and your conversations.
Thank you, Lisa. All the best to you and Samir. Thank you. We had a good time.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you, Lisa.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.